Hello and welcome to the second video in the Truvald series. In the first video, we did an overview, a high-level look at what Truvald is and what it can do for you and your organization. Today, we're going to jump in directly into the setup and the basic configuration so that Truvald can start bringing value to your organization immediately. So you're going to start by downloading the Truvald installation package from our truvald.ca website. Now, that's not available at the time of this recording. We're not live yet, but we are going to use a debug version for this demo. No changes will appear from here today to the release version. Everything is going to remain the same, so no worries there. UAC popped up because there are a couple of registry keys required for Truvald to function correctly. Nothing that's going to affect your server. They're very much dedicated to Truvald. They will not affect anything else on your server. It's just so Truvald remembers where the database is and how to connect and launch correctly. So I'm going to change the location of Truvald install to my data folder because I'm not data drive rather, because I'm not a big fan of installing applications on the system drive, especially when they have a database folder associated with them that could end up growing and affect my server. I'm going to select the SQLite embedded today. That's very sufficient for a single Truvald install, making sure that my database path updated along with the location, and same with the logs. And then we're going to say, yes, give all users on this system a shortcut to Truvald. And we're going to click install. I might have chosen a different database engine if I was going to install multiple instances of Truvald on the system across my organization. Then they'd all share the same configuration, the same settings, the same policies. All the data would be uniform across all the installations of Truvald. It's better that way for security, governance, and compliance to make sure that we don't have any deviance. The SQLite database we're using today really cannot be shared. It's local only accessible by the local Truvald install. So now Truvald is launched. We're going to create an 8-digit PIN on Truvald to protect the Truvald configuration and to serve as an elevation key when we need to elevate our credentials or elevate the permission to allow us to make changes through Truvald. So we've created our PIN. As soon as that's done, we see that we are in a 30-day evaluation. That's a fully functional version of Truvald with the exception of report and document generation. So you will not be able to create reports or generate documentation from Truvald until you have a fully licensed version. But right off the bat, we see that we've discovered the enterprise CAs in this Active Directory domain, and we've done an AIA chain walk to discover that yes, indeed, they do have an offline root CA. So it's a wonderful start to our activities today. We already have disk space advisories on those CAs, and we have some events trickling in, mostly from CA2, it seems, but there they are. But we're not done setting up Truvald for our initial setup, so we're going to go to the app settings. We're going to unlock that with that 8-digit PIN we just created, and we're going to see the full settings. One of the first settings you might want to change if you don't trust everybody that's going to use Truvald on this system is to uncheck the automatically check for updates on startup. That is an activity that does require a PIN elevation. So if you're not sharing the PIN out with everybody, which I don't recommend you do, you'll probably want to check that off. Now, in current bug check mode, we are using a different URL for updates. The production URL will be ready for you when we go live, but for now, using the bug check directory, that will go away, and we see that we're updated. And if we wanted to back out and go to a previous version, we could right here. Now, this is your first install, so really you're going to leave everything by default there. If you're already ready to activate, you've already decided you're going to do it, you're going to do that here by clicking the activation button and entering the activation key that you've received through your online purchase or that we've sent you after an invoice-based purchase and the funds have been transferred. And then some debugging and verbose logging switches right here for if you find a bug in your installation and you need our help to fix it, we're going to get you to turn that on. The delete temporary files becomes more valuable when these are checked because more data is generated. The data retention is really about your data retention policies in your organization. So set that to what your organization has as a policy. Any data older than that value will be deleted automatically from the database. If you leave it at 0, we will keep all data forever. So back to the app settings, I recommend you hit the security section as soon as you start. If you have a very high tolerance for risk and you're not too worried about who's using the app, you can remove the PIN requirements. It's not something I recommend, but it is something that's available to you. Now, allowing the restart of the CA services from Truvald, well, we used to do that all the time just from the MMC. Chances are we have no problem with anybody doing that. And so we can check that off right here, and the button for that activity becomes enabled. But what we're really here for is to create a user account using an authenticator application. Much like you do for everything else, I'm going to use my Microsoft Authenticator to add this to my Authenticator app. And I'm going to provide the code that it generated right off the bat to validate that. So there we go. And test the code. And validation is successful. User is now registered. So this is so that I don't have to give the PIN of app, the master PIN, to anybody. Now I can authorize somebody to do something when I'm not even in the room. They can say, I need to do this, and I can give them my one-time password. They can do that activity. They are tracked as having clicked the button. I am tracked as having approved it. That way we know what's going on and we have some control over the environment. So that's a feature that I highly recommend get configured and installed. Then we're probably going to go to our organization tab. We're going to set up our organization here. Now, in a demo environment where you can't generate reports, this may not sound as important because this is mostly for report generation. Any generated reports or documentation from Truvald will then adopt your logo and your company to brand the documents accordingly right off the bat so that they're ready to present to your audiences without a lot of finagling. So back to app settings at this point, and the next important section right off the bat is to configure what systems we are going to monitor. Because PKI is not just the enterprise CAs, there are frequently other servers that play into the solution. Mine are all in a single OU, so I'm going to click Add Servers, and it found 7 computers. It's going to scan them and add them. We'll note that they're all labeled accordingly, except this one here, and I'm going to work on that for release to make sure it can figure out that that was actually a MySQL MariaDB server. That's a fix that is coming. So right now there are the servers that I want to monitor. If I go back to objects, I also have groups that I use for PKI. Those groups need to be monitored as well. So we're going to add there, search through OU and find groups. It found my groups in my OU. I'm going to add them all. And then I'm going to check off the INF groups because those are the role-based access control groups that give actual permissions to the PKI environment. So we've added those. We are going to now leave them checked because this is how Truvald decides that those are RBAC groups and not just other certificate ACL groups, access control list groups. So fantastic, our groups are now configured. Now we can go to the EOL watch, end of life watch, because there are certificates out there that if they expire and we don't know they're expiring could cause us a lot of trouble, especially if we're still in the good old manual renewal way. So we're going to go through the list of templates here and select the templates that we want notifications on expiry. Yes, the templates were populated automatically by Truvald when it scanned Active Directory by the nature that it is a member of Active Directory. So there it is. There's our objects all configured. You may want to configure your change management integration. If you're using Truvald with ServiceNow, then RITM is correct. If you're using another change management tool, you may need to change that. In my case, I have 3 domain names that I might be issuing certs to through cross-forest enrollment. I'm going to pretend I'm using ServiceNow, so I leave this as RITM, and I leave that as organization unit. That's the subject field we're going to use for change management tickets. So when somebody submits their request, they include their ServiceNow ticket number in the request so that we have tracking on who wanted it for what. Now, if you want to see that approval process, that request process, There's full documentation in Truvald to help you decide that. We can just click on this link, and here's the change management integration section of the application to show you really how all of this works and how you can implement that in your own organization. So back to our operations dashboard, we're going to refresh the health up here to see if anything changed with the changes we've just made. And we are going to notice some changes. As it reloads, we're going to see that the disk space is now also verifying those additional servers that we added. So it's looking at the disk space on all of those servers. And it's looking at the disk space, the availability of services as well. So we see that I have a challenge here with my certificate enrollment policy server. The service is unavailable, something I'm obviously going to have to look at. The rest of them, the service is reachable, and then I have my NDES server, the mskep.dll is reachable. Why is it red? Because in my lab, the service certificates, the certificate request agent certificates that NDES needs to operate are on a 7-day lifetime. They expire and auto-renew, auto-rebind every 7 days. And that means that it's always red because the threshold for red in Truvald is 7 days. Now, if everybody comes back and says, oh, we want ours to be 7 days, come and help us. Well, I'll be happy to help you. I'll be happy to consult with you. We offer consulting outside of Truvald, and I can help you automate a lot of this stuff if you so choose. And maybe one day we'll change the threshold to 2 days so that mine isn't red all the time. And also we're seeing our database activities. The other thing that changed is now we have the ability to add members to our groups or to search for members in our groups right here in Truvald. Now, let's mention that everything I'm doing right now, folks, I have the correct permissions on the servers involved to do it. It's using my Windows credentials to gauge what I'm allowed to do. So if you want somebody to be able to manage these groups through Truvald, you're going to need to delegate the ability to change group members on the OU where the groups exist. If you want somebody to be able to do all of these things, they're probably going to need a certain level of administrative access to your CAs. All things that we can discuss later and all things that fall into a good practice. Your assessments will help you reveal some of these challenges. So that's all we're going to look at for today. We're going to come back on another video to look at some of the other things that we haven't looked at today as we move forward in the video series. In an effort to keep them under 15 minutes, though, we're going to call this one done. And I'll wish you all a great day and hope to see you again in the next video in the series. Take care.